sent something to All right.
Good evening.
Hello, Taylor. Good
June
evening.
22nd. Here we are.
Yeah, no, and we're doing a podcast on love.
On love.
I titled this The Sensation of Love, although I'm not sure that that's the right title.
Well, I certainly want to be sensing it then. Here we are. Sun just
Here
moved,
we are.
made its way south yesterday?
Yeah, no, it's on its move now. No, it's been going south. Now it's going back north.
Turn north. That's right. Yeah, that's what I meant. That's what I said.
Yeah, of course, and I'm sure it's correct. Yeah, this sidereal stuff can get a little confusing, I know. So let me mute this and set all this up and forget about that. All right, so
are those crickets on your end?
What crickets? I have no crickets on my
Okay.
end.
I hear crickets. Maybe it's on my end. You don't hear him?
No.
Okay, good. That's
have
good.
You opened the door to the outside there behind you? Maybe that's where they're coming from.
It could be. Okay. I just wanted to show up on our recording. Okay, so we're going sensation of love.
Yeah. Only because I'm pretty certain that most people don't have the least idea of the experience of having a consciousness of love inside them. Because if you do, it's more dramatic than putting your hand on a hot stove. Mm-hmm. It's real and alive and generating the activity of the universe. So when it enters us in its form, we become a transformed creature. We don't have any way of resisting it, or it just becomes a total, basically obsessive energy inside of us. And that's a stupendous thing. Now, I think, you're no stranger to love. You've got 3 kids and I'm sure a large string of ex-boyfriends and so on behind you. So we do fall in love. We fall into what we think of as love with other people, which I think in most cases, certainly not all, is a hormonal exchange that causes sensations in our body due to blood.
Well, what happens if you isolate it? You take out the love you have for someone or something, instead of towards something. I love my kids, I love my husband, I love my dog, I love my fucking sauna.
Yeah, well, you're not talking about love.
No, that's what I'm getting
That's
at.
the thing. And so when we
if you distill it down to that essence.
We're really talking about the only thing the ego really understands, which is desire. The ego understands what it desires. More ice cream. I love ice cream. More sex. I love sex. More booze.
Dan.
I like booze.
I love Dan.
Yeah, well, thank you. So, and it's because it's not a digital scale, it's an analog scale. I think you can move from one over into the other, into the other, into the other in a cascade that you can sort of carry off into something that actually is love. And I don't think it's easy to tell. But we have to focus on it because love requires no object. It just simply is.
Right.
And if it is in us, without us objectifying it to I love her or him or the dog or something, sports, art, beauty, money, if we take away the object of what it is we love, and then you just stop with I love and put yourself in touch with that opportunity, that sensation, I think I may not have turned on that. I don't even know how to do it. Pardon me for interrupting, but there's something here I think I may need to do.
Okay, I mess with my light. Whoa.
Well, let's see. Now, let's see.
Okay.
All right, so I'm just checking here because there's a button here that shows that you're doing local recordings. In other words,
Oh.
I because your thing kind of went out of whack there for just a second, and I wanted that to be on, and I don't know if we could do that without starting over. Maybe.
Oh,
not.
I think it does it when it uploads.
No, it has to. Well, I don't know. We'll continue and not worry about it for what we're talking
Okay,
about.
so if we take the objectivity out of love.
Yeah, if you do, then you're left with a direct relationship to love itself, which is something that the ego doesn't know how to imagine. And because it doesn't know how to imagine it, it's not that it can't imagine it, but it has to do it through a certain series of processes. It's not something you can look at in your intellect and find, because love won't appear in the intellect. It doesn't have, the intellect itself lacks the capacity at this stage of brain development, or atoms of the brain. It can't register love in an actual direct contact. Now, your blood can acknowledge the sensation of things in it as a result of love, but you can see that summoning it to you in a relationship to appear with it, or to look at it, or to have an experience with it, doesn't work in the human consciousness yet. That's why we've gone so long without, that's one of the reasons why we've gone so long without any direct comprehension, even discussable comprehension of what love is for each other and ourselves. And its reference in religious or biblical things or esoteric things from certain sources doesn't really seem to help too much. So what I'm doing is pausing,
because it doesn't put it in your direct experience. Yeah.
No, it doesn't give you a contact with it that is tangible, visceral, a sensation to acknowledge. That sensation comes directly from my integration with love itself.
Right.
So, and in fact, there may not be a place in which that's even possible, to the degree that it almost always has some association with it, because love is one of those dynamic, timeless things that operates in an instant and always connects us to everything else.
So it's like a unifier, right?
Yeah, it's a unifier of whatever it is you're dealing with. And so maybe there's no way in which you can experience a direct sensation of love without an object appearing somehow, because you're in a world in which you're having tangible experiences with other things. So I'm not trying to force any of that. I'm just looking at it so that you can look at it and see what would it be to have a direct contact with the sensation of this energy of life that completes the wholeness of experiencing life. Life comes with certain qualities, like intelligence. We're thinking about this stuff. That's an aspect of life, and it's everywhere, and we do it automatically because it's just here and we can do it. It comes with will, so that you can decide what you're doing next. And we've learned how to work that quality or aspect of life into our nature. Now, this love part, which completes the trinity of life, doesn't have that same kind of sense with us. It's not just automatic and there and we have it. It's something that we have to look at. And by having to look at it, it tells us we don't actually have consciousness of it. We're not, you can think about what you love. You can think about experiences you've had that you would consider to be love. And you can think about loving something in the future. But you can't just summon it up. And there it
or
is.
can you?
Yeah, well, when I say can't, go ahead, summon it up. But yeah, I believe you can. I believe that you can place yourself in life with a complete wholeness to reality.
Yeah.
You can hold all of reality in you because you are personally, you are already an expression of all of reality.
Right.
You are.
Sure.
You
You're the
literally are.
microcosm. Yeah.
Yeah, you got all your parts. And
Yeah.
so why can't we isolate that part of ourselves in our consciousness and see it or
Well, maybe
taste
you're
it?
right. Maybe it can't be isolated, because it's so inclusive, and it's literally the energy that animates life. It's like, how are you going to experience that isolated from it? It's like,
Well, you don't have
maybe,
to isolate it, but look, if you imagine a sunset, you can sort of feel like that would be fun. Let's go down to the beach and watch the sunset. But if it's a spectacular sunset, and occasionally they are, then you know that a sensation is going to arise in you about the beauty of what you're looking at, because it's transitory. It's not going to hang out for you. It's going to go there and it's constantly moving, and then it'll be gone. And you can pass through that sensation with it. And you can have a sense that I'm really loving this sunset. I'm really having an experience in me about it. And at the same time, be looking at it. You can see those two distinct things. I'm looking at the colors and the changing from gold to blue to purple to whatever. And at the same time, this really feels amazing. So I'm having a sensation about the sunset that I'm only having because it's a sunset. And it's being caused by this impersonal thing that's happening all over the place. But I'm aware that I'm having this sensation of it. So you've got two things. You've got what your observational mind is showing you, and you've got how you feel about it. But you know that that's a feeling. And how does that feeling transcend its own boundaries from feeling to a sense of love? What indicates to you that that's possible, or that you have gone past that boundary?
there's an elevation that comes with it.
I think of it as elevation. And so it elevates you into a, now we're speaking speculatively because we're not looking at that sunset. But if you come back to it and think, oh, okay, so I'm looking at this sunset and it's astoundingly amazing, and it's elevating me out of just feeling really amazed by the colors and by the clouds and how it looks and the water and the light on the water and all of that, if I'm looking at an ocean over a sunset. But the elevation of that takes you into a place where it transcends your analysis of it. It takes you into a place where you and the sunset are experiencing something shared. In other words, it's the sunset, it's your response with it, your sense of flowing with the beauty of it all, and it leaves the idea of what you're doing behind, and you just enter into a state of it's almost an ecstatic state, because it doesn't have any thought, it doesn't have any definition. It's a pure state of sensation based on beauty and you experiencing the beauty. So I think that you can move over into a state where the nature of love is engaged in the activity. There's a sunset, there's you, and then there's something connecting the two of you together, and to something greater, to the livingness of the planet, to the whole unity of the space in which we find ourselves and our perception flowing. Now, I don't know a better way to come to it than that, or to think about it than that, but it's true. It's true that there is a state of an ecstatic state where you and love come into union with one another. And I think, generally speaking, I don't even know a state in which it wouldn't be true. There's going to be some objective element involved or engaged. someone, something, some condition, some appreciation of you in relationship to a greater whole in which you live and have your being. So that sensation, I think, is as close as what we can think of as experiencing love. You're experiencing the genuine presence of the living energy of life that creates all things, including that sunset. We don't think of the sunset as a conscious creation, but I think it probably is. I mean, the earth is this turning orb. So the full 24 hours a day has a constant sunset, constantly going on, because the sun is constantly setting somewhere and it's rising somewhere. And so it's happening as a direct result of the planet's interrelationship with the other events that cause it to be, the sun and the activities and movements of it all. And every once in a while, some celestial element interferes with that, like an eclipse or something like that. And we see that it can be interfered with. But when it's interfered with, a new kind of beauty or a new kind of experience appears. So I think that there's no way to separate love from its, in our physical universe anyway. I don't think there's a way to separate love from the experience that we're having of life. But what we can do is tune into the constant presence of it. And if we can do that, and this doesn't happen in your ego isn't going to be aware of the love. You are going to be aware of it. And you can transmit that awareness to your ego and tell the ego, oh, I'm experiencing love. But the ego won't know the love. It will only know what you're telling it, that you're experiencing it.
Like using visualization.
Well, I mean, that's a way in which you
as
can
a way
come,
in.
Yeah, it's a way into love, is the ability to visualize or imagine, or both, the imagination and the visualization come together and can bring you into an interception with the energy of love as a tangible quality of life, making an impact on your senses. And if that happens and you register it, now you are opening a relationship to this energy. But this energy is always here. It's always in the universe. It's never gone from the universe, because it can't be gone from the universe. It's a permanent, energizing aspect of life. There is no place that it is not. Even though people can appear loveless, it's their lack of consciousness of love that is happening, not the absence of love itself. If you close your eyes, you don't see any light, but that doesn't mean there's not light. So the human race has tuned love out of its conscious experience and then gone looking for it, like it lost something. But you didn't lose anything. It isn't left behind. It's just being tuned out of your conscious expression or experience. Now, if you practiced tuning back into love, watching sunsets, then you might come back closer towards it. You might even occasionally get that sensation. Now, how do we imagine it in a way that we can begin to rebuild our lost relationship to this aspect of life? Because that's what we must do if we're to live according to the law of love, according to the creative, positive power of this great aspect of life. If we are living in harmony with it all the time, then we are going to experience beauty and truth and love as a constant state of being with whatever else we're interacting with. It's not accidental that you have that experience when you're looking at the sunset or something really beautiful or blessed or just tremendously inductive of great good feeling in you. which can be a person or a pet or a waterfall. A number of things can bring you into the realization that you are sharing this moment in this life, in this situation, with a living energy that we are calling love, only because we don't have another name for it. You could have a number of names for it, but it wouldn't really matter. It's either something you're aware of, like magnetism or gravity or something. You can give it a name you want, but when it's present in our awareness, it transforms our life. It changes how we relate to one another and to things around us.
Even to ourselves.
Well, especially to ourselves, because we fall into depression and bad habits of insensitivity to love inside ourselves, which is where love lives, because it moved inside the human race. It took up residence with the human race deliberately on our behalf. And that was done a couple thousand years ago, and we still haven't realized it. We still haven't made that triumphant contact with love that we are prepared to experience. We are prepared by nature to be ecstatic, to be wholly positive, to be completely present with the dynamic of life that creates great and constant good. We are built for that. And yet we can't somehow seem to find it except at heightened moments, and then we cascade off of it. Now, I think part of that is just a lack of health vitality. We're not a very healthy species at this time. We're not living near our dynamic vibration of activity that we could be experiencing. And so we have to bring that vibration up if we're going to stand in the presence of love and experience it coursing through our glandular system and our blood system and all the other systems that make up a whole person. So we do have to think about that and think about bringing ourselves up towards it and letting it impact us in a way that produces that kind of healing, because love also can do healing.
It's that same elevation.
Well, the elevation towards the vibration of love is a healing elevation. And all depressions away from that elevation are in the direction of disease. Emotional disease, mental disease, physical disease, it doesn't matter. They're all falling away from love. So I think, this is a challenge, and it's a tough challenge because you find that you're not, do you want to be a Major League Baseball player? Well, you probably, not you personally, but you might.
Sure. Why not?
Why not? Yeah. So, but you have to, I've known a few, and I flew on an airplane one time with, I forget what team, I think it was the Dodgers. I was coming back to Los Angeles from somewhere, and the whole team got on the plane. And I remember looking at these guys and realizing just what physical specimens they are. You just look at them and they're just radiant, healthy, towering specimens of physical health. And
even golfers.
Yeah.
You think golf's not like a sport, but these guys are incredible. If you're going to be
world class at anything, and if you're a major league ball player, basketball, baseball, football, you're carrying yourself at a very high degree of vitality.
Yeah.
And so it isn't their size, it's their vitalness. They just have this threshold of vitality. And we mostly lack that kind of intensity about ourselves, and they work for it. They are athletes. They spend a big part of their day doing nothing but maintaining that vibration.
Yeah, I was thinking about that commitment thing a lot today. Me and Dan briefly talked about, we had a conversation last night, and one thing that came up was, your commitment. That's the thing holding you back in a lot of ways. I don't know if this is exactly relevant to this conversation.
Well, of course it is.
Those guys are committed to what they're
up to. No, if you're going to be
and vitality follows, and all those things follow.
They don't follow from yourself exactly, because commitment is a relationship to the greater life in which you live. If you're committed to climbing Everest, you're going to need a lot of things aside from stamina, because it's a long walk up 20-some thousand feet, and the air gets thin. But you're going to need equipment, and you're going to need rope, and you're going to need gear, and you're going to need a guide, and you're going to need all of the things that take you to it. And so you have to summon, by your commitment to Everest, see, until you decided to climb Everest, all those things don't exist for you. Nature has never heard of you in terms of climbing Everest. But the moment that someone says, you know what, I'm going to climb that goddamn mountain, and you make it a committed assignment in your life, and you set the boundaries of it within the next 5 years, whatever you're going to do, then somehow nature itself hears that commitment. It feels your sense of determination as a being. You have presence as a being in the space we all share. And so immediately that part of nature which responds to human commitment, and it's not judging your motive for climbing the mountain. It's just acting on your requirement for help. And it starts assuming towards you the things you're going to need to get to the top of the mountain. Now, it's dangerous, because if you lose your commitment halfway up the mountain, then you're in danger. You're in danger of dying on that mountain. So if you're going to be committed to something, be committed all the way through to the outcome of the experience. But it changes you, because you're constantly summoning your desire to do that, to achieve that objective. But you're putting pressure on life. You're saying to life, help me do this. I need a lot of things. I need money. I need gear. I need help. I need commitment. I need somebody to guide me. I need these things. And so you start checking them off your list, and they appear. They all appear to you and around you if your commitment is tangible, clear, and enforced by your personal will. Now that is an activity of love responding to you by activating elements other than you to support and assist you. So love is in, every time someone makes a commitment, love is invested something in that commitment. Now, if you're going to rob a bank like Willie the Actor Sutton or somebody like that, then you're still committed to a goal. And love's not judging the goal in terms of its morality. It's just judging it in terms of your determination to have an outcome with it. And it doesn't guarantee you any outcome. You might get shot by the policeman who walks into the bank while you're robbing it. Love's not going to guarantee any of that, because that's your choice. That's your destiny. But it will support you. You need a getaway car. You need someone to drive the getaway car. You need a little bag to put the money in. So you need the same kind of elements to climbing Everest, but you need it now because you're going to rob a bank. Or anything else that a human being decides to commit himself to do. So in the pursuit of love as a working aspect of your personal character, commitment is an enormous power. Because you're committing, if you're going to commit directly to experiencing love as a tangible part of your anatomy, then it will help you. It will bring you the things you need. And everybody needs different things to be able to cognize the reality of love in their experience. You might need a pathway that leads through a religious experience. You may need that because it'll bring you a depth of meaning that will guarantee your ability to transcend your normal thought. In which case, then you need to meet someone who will introduce you to themselves and say, let me show you how this works in my philosophy or my religion or my Buddhist practice or whatever it is. You may need none of that. You may just need some scientific support, because there is a science to love. Love doesn't work through all these mysterious interactions that we're describing with commitment without science. All of that is the science of love, which is as clear a scientific process as any other science once you see it in operation. You see the mechanisms and the levers that bring it into enforcement. And so I think I think that when you bring up commitment, it's with the realization that it's not just a solitary personal idea. The moment you act in a commitment to something, you're invoking the support
It's
of
like
the greater life.
It's like a generating power.
It is a generating power because we have that
I'm thinking of the
relationship.
tools, I'm like, okay, commitment. But it has to be sincere, and the other side of that is, well, how are you going to commit to something that you don't, know how to go about? Everest is there, so you could commit
Right.
to that. So it brings on a set of problems once you decide you're committed to that direct experience, and to differing
Well,
degrees.
okay, but that might be the reason why it's taken millions of years for humanity to get to the place where we can actually discuss this.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not that things can't be done from the very beginning of the human race. And I think at the very beginning, when we go way back before you and I remember or can imagine, or any recordings are made of how human beings did the things they did, like these monolithic people from 10 or 15 or 20 or 50,000 years ago, we don't know what the state of consciousness of these beings who were the human beings of that day, we don't know their state of consciousness. And because we don't, we make assumptions about them being less conscious than we are. But that's not necessarily true. They certainly were less intellectual, less mental, but that doesn't mean they were less conscious. So the idea of being in harmony with love to a very prehistoric person, way prehistoric person, the people who are the ancestors of our ancestors, they may have been very conscious of the energy of love in the environment. They simply had no name for it, and they might have called it God. They might have called it anything we could call it, the beautiful light. They might have just had no name for it at all, or just used it without realization of it in their mind as a thing separate from light or separate from any sense that we have. So we don't know how we were experiencing. What we do know is that we have become very material people. And as we've become very material people, we've become less conscious of the super sensual world, which at the same time, we've become completely material almost. We're almost completely material. We've almost eliminated everything from our thought field and vocabulary that deals with the supersensory world. We don't talk about the psychic world. There was a time when the human race spent a lot of time talking about the psychic world. And the ancient Greeks, the Stoic Greeks, way back, and others, they knew all about it. They related to it. Mm-hmm. They didn't think of astrology as some mystical experience. It was the relationship between living heavenly bodies. So there are those beings in the past who knew they were living and knew they were heavenly and named them and talked about the impact that they had on each other and on us on this tiny planet in the midst of all of it. We're now thinking whether that's something that's going to be in our future. So I look at the world like a U, we have gone down the side of the U to the bottom. And at the bottom is pure materialism. Billion people scrolling their iPhones, letting the information on the screen inform their senses to give them thoughts and feelings, as if they could not generate all of that from within themselves by their relationship to things around them. So
I never understood why that's preferable. I don't know how it took such a hold like that.
Sensation. We love sensation.
Instant,
We're like
right.
cats. We like to be stroked. We like to be petted. And we like things that talk to us or scare us or give us a thrill or do any of those kind of things. That's why we like music. We like rock and roll because it makes us feel something. So we were seduced by the agency of materialism, the intelligence of it, the energy of it. And So we've started producing it. And now we have a almost completely material society. And at the same time, we have a desperate need to discover the supersensible world that is love, because we're killing each other, if you've noticed. And that comes from an absence of love. It comes from an inability to recognize the other person as someone sacred, as someone that's important to the whole. If you think the universe can live without any single human being in it, then you misunderstood the universe that created that person. Everything is created for the purpose of itself, and it's all developing and growing towards a wholeness. But we don't know about any of that because we've become material. And that assumes that in the past we were more material or less conscious of that spiritual reality. But I don't think that that's the case. I think that's an assumption we're making. And I try to be careful of making assumptions about things that I don't actually have direct experience with. But I recognize right now, right in this minute of Earth's time, that we need very much to pause and take a look at what we're missing, that is reality itself. Reality itself is complete and whole. Now, we've divided it into will, love, and intelligence through some agency of discovery. But if you leave the love out, then you have just will and intelligence. That's not reality. That's human consciousness of reality, but it's lacking, severely lacking, the most dynamically creative aspect of life itself. And if you do that, then you're acting as an insane person.
So we're all insane.
Yeah, we are. We're all insane together. And
Makes sense.
Because the point is, well, there are sane people on the planet, but they hide from the rest of, they don't hide from it. They just withdraw from the rest of the human race because they can't interact directly with people easily. Mm-hmm. Because people are suspicious of them and afraid of them because they carry too much an aura of completeness about them, an aura of power, an aura of sensibility that's so much greater than our own that it makes them stand as something odd. So the hierarchical spiritual people that live on the earth with us pretty much avoid contact with us, even though they work constantly to try to help us come to our own discoveries of love. And so that's just a condition of the human species. We are in that state of absurdity at the moment. Do you think that's true? I could be wrong about all that.
I have no doubts about it. I'll say I'm sure you're right, but there's no way of being sure, so that would be a false claim. But I have no doubts that that's accurate.
Well, if we are willing to self-examine with any degree of honesty, we recognize the absurdity of our own egos.
And I think by looking at that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think everybody does some levels.
I don't know. I mean,
it's like you gotta feel ridiculous,
I know egos that are so self-assured in their intensity of self-devotion that they don't find any chinks in the armor of self. They're perfectly happy with how they think, how they view things, how right they are, and how wrong the rest of us are, because we don't agree with everything they think and say and feel. And because no one's ever going to agree with everything they think and say and feel, they can stand determined in that, saying, look, if you all would just go along, if you all would get in step with me, then everything would be perfect. But no one's ever going to do that with them, so it's not proven for them. It'll never be proven. And even dictators who try to force everyone to get into step with them find themselves in the end failing to do so, as is happening in the world right now. So I don't know. There are a lot of people who doubt themselves. I constantly do. So I know there's plenty of those. There's people who just recognize that they don't have it all. They don't even have it all figured out or even remotely figured out. And those are the closest people to being wise, I think.
Well, I don't know, because I know that I don't have any of it figured out, and I'm
Yeah,
not
well,
wise. So.
I don't think that's true. I think you're a good mother. I think you're an intelligent person, and I think you handle your life quite well. And there's a
Doesn't
lot
mean
of
I got it
wisdom.
figured out.
But you don't have to have it figured out. What you have to be
No,
is in harmony with the creative forces of reality.
and that's true. It's like the more you give yourself to what is in the space and pull out of that, thought world, because it's very easy to just be in the thought world, even when you're acting in a space. It's like you look back and you weren't even present to those moments. And I'm definitely guilty of that. But the more that I am just choose to be right there, right where I am, it's like that elevation. I mean, not to the extent that we're talking about, but there is an elevation in that. It's like the presence is there. There's a unification, and I practice it a lot with my kids because, I have a benefit there because I get to be home with them and watch how, I look back 3 months ago and I can't believe how much time has lapsed. And I'm thinking, God, I don't want to miss this, because I'm so busy with, life, And so I make a real point to every day just be in the presence with them, share that space, because they're like rapid fire change. And so
And they're not a bit worried about whether they're in the moment or present or anything else.
no, exactly.
Because they're living in the now. The now moment is what they have, what we have as children, until
and
we
that's what I
start
was circling
recognizing.
too. So thanks for bringing that in.
Well, we start when we grow accustomed to thinking about the past. Kids don't think about the past. It's not real to them, and they don't really think too much about the future unless you rock them up by saying Christmas is coming or something.
Yeah,
but
my birthday.
Yeah, on Christmas.
No, but they'll get excited about
like birthday.
Going to the birthday.
Having a birthday coming. So we train them to think about the future and to be concerned about the past, and yet they have no reason to do so. It's just we have a reason to do so, so we impose it on our children, and pretty soon we've got them strung out between past, present, and future, and they've lost touch with the eternal now, which is the only moment that actually ever really is. And it's the moment in which love lives. Mm-hmm. While you're watching that sunset, you have to be in the now if you're going to have that experience that carries you over into the energy of love, creating that experience with you watching it.
And then there's a part where it's like you let go. It's like a letting go. You let that moment overtake you, and that's kind of what carries it. In my experience, is like you allow yourself to be overtaken by it. It's like we always have this conversation about, love will never violate your free will, and it's kind of like it's a subtle thing in that moment, the moment that we're talking about. And I just wanted to bring that in because that is how love operates. It will never violate you or anything. It's like you have to give that release. You have to let that go. You have to let it open up for it to come.
Yes, permission is required.
Mm-hmm.
To experience love, permission is required by love of you. So when we start to realize how easy it is to send love away, to send it out of our consciousness and then function in a material brain consciousness with no awareness of the dynamic energy that's filling the universe in us and around us. It's kind of hard to imagine if you had that you could not have it. But humanity has not had it so long that it's hard for us to imagine having it. So we're kind of in the opposite condition of that. Beings that have lived in full awareness of the presence of love, along with will and intelligence, for centuries of time, could not imagine giving up love, couldn't imagine moving that out of their awareness of being. And I could understand that. But we who have not had it in our awareness and have been living in a localized insanity called Earth are having a hard time putting it in our awareness. But if we don't put it in our awareness, we're going to break our society down to something very primitive, as we have done many times in the past, and have to build it back up again. that's the consequence of not adding love to your mix. If you want a permanent harmony with the environment and all the elements in it, it's going to require love. Like the Tao, you can bring life into balance momentarily, the yin and the yang of it, but it's going to keep going. It's going to go back out of balance again and then come back around to balance again, because it's a constantly moving thing. And that's a universe without a stabilizing element, without something that will bring it to a constant state of harmony and balance and let it learn a new way of growing into greater and greater heliosphere, a greater and greater sympathy of life with itself as a perfect balance with love, creating greater and greater unity and harmony until finally a new resolution occurs. One that we have not yet experienced because we don't live in a universe that has come into that kind of balance yet. Does that make any sense to you?
It does. It just leaves me with the question of, I'm just having a hard time with one little part of that. You get something into complete balance, let's say, and then where is the growth take place in that? Because if you're in this perfect balance, what keeps you growing?
What are you trying to grow? Well, it depends on what you're trying to grow. Potatoes or...
Well, I mean, in life, it's a constant growth towards...
But growth of what?
Yeah, I guess I didn't look at the framework of the question, but...
Well, the importance of what you're asking.
It's kind of like when you're living, though, I mean, you're alive, you want to be growing towards something, that's...
What you want.
Otherwise,
kids, kids want you to put a line on the edge of the door to show you that they're taller than they were last month, and it's only this much, but you see all these little lines as they're growing up.
I don't mean that sort of growth. I mean growth.
Well, that's
as
a form of growth.
Who you
that's
are.
What's important to a 10-year-old.
Right. But you want to grow, consciously, and you want to evolve yourself, and you want to. So if you're in this perfect state of balance, can growth still take place in that? It just is a balanced growth.
Well, what you're asking is a really important question, because growth in intelligence requires the experience of the Tao. It requires a constant oscillation of things because you're growing intelligence. Intelligence is based on breaking things down, putting them back together, breaking them down, putting them back together, renaming them, naming them, and renaming them, until finally the intelligence of every single thing in the universe is known to every other thing in the universe. And it has been so thoroughly developed in this universe, or in the last universe, basically, that everybody knows what intelligence is. Everything knows. Flowers know what intelligence is because you look at the beauty they produce in their relationship to the environment they live in. They adapt, they grow, they bloom, they make fruit, they go on. Animals do the same thing. People, if we weren't acting against our own interests, would be doing the same thing because of our rejection of love. But animals don't reject love. They are just not conscious of it, but they're living in harmony with it mostly, which is a part of the discussion if we look at animal kingdom, because it's a little bit influenced by us, by the human kingdom. But the mineral kingdom, which seems to be pretty independent, is extraordinarily intelligent. Otherwise, chemistry would fail. You wouldn't be able to make Jello. It requires a tremendous amount of intelligence for minerals to bond, to change, to transform, to create alloys and ceramics and all the things that we do with chemistry, rocket fuel. These are all intelligent processes interacting in atomic levels of action and reaction. And they're completely consistent. They always work. And it produces the foundation upon which everything else can rest. So intelligence is in the mineral kingdom, it's in the plant kingdom, it's in the animal kingdom, and it's in the human kingdom, but there is where it fails. It fails because we are self-conscious, aware beings. we're the part of nature created to be self-conscious and aware. It's not an accident. We're the element of life that lives in that strata where we first become self-conscious and aware. But we're not self-conscious and aware of love. That's missing in the human kingdom. It's missing so grandly that we act like lunatics. We act totally out of balance with nature and harmony and good sense and everything else. You know, we have an entire subculture of madness that we called goths, right? Whatever it is that you want to be against it. Right. And whether it's, you know, pornography, or whether it's an attachment to violence, or whether it's an attachment to all of the failures and the destruction of things, we have desires for these things. We have appetites for these things. These are not manifestations of love. They're manifestations of an absence of love, seeking some kind of self-reward of some kind. So what happens when love completes itself in a human being? Mm-hmm. We have names for those kind of beings. We call them saints in a religion. We don't know much what else to call them if they're not in some kind of religion. But they become the people who are the gift givers and contributors wholly and completely to the human race around them. And there are a few of them relative to the rest of us, but it's a direction that we somehow feel an instinct to go in. So we're not unconscious that we're missing this power that makes saints out of some people under circumstances. We're not unconscious of it, and we actually value it, but none of us kind of know how to do it, which is what my concern is. All you have to do is arrive at the desire to do it and start on that path, take a step in that direction, and then it comes to meet you. And if you do it with any kind of commitment whatsoever, you're going to become successful at it, because it's going to come and meet you. In the commitment aspect we're talking about, nature's going to join you and say, okay, well, this is the path that leads to that. And what that leads to eventually, if you follow that path, is a full consciousness of love itself as an aspect of life in you, sharing your life with you, unfolding your desires to go forward. But you can't have that until you are willing to give up some of those other desires, the ones that led you, excuse me, the ones that led you down the path of chaos and craziness and misspent life. So we don't all want that. We don't want that perfection. Something in here is making me sneeze, so I'm going to pause for a second while you take time out with the kids, and I'll be right back.
Okay. Pause, yeah. If I can pause this recording. I think Dan has the power to do that. Yeah, and just more on that, Dan. I don't know if you can hear me, but it's almost like a simultaneous act. It's like those desires they're just gone as you walk down that path. They're hardly even a memory.
All right.
It's weird talking to nobody.
Back.
So I think that there's a way to pause it, but I think you have to do it.
I have no idea how to run these. Without said, we're kind of
no one. Yeah.
Yeah, we're kind of lost in the dark. You're not talking to no one. You're talking to them.
I know, but yeah, but you're here, so.
Next time I'll leave my elephant up and where you can talk to him.
Yeah, what do you got in that cup there?
Never you mind. But it's all on the path to love. Mm-hmm. It's a wonderful and exciting exploration for humanity to come to the realization that love as an energy in the universe is actually real. totally everywhere, fantastic, fully alive in a way that we've never known life, except in extreme moments of maybe falling off a cliff or falling in love or ecstasy, having an orgasm or something. You come close to it, but love just lights up things. So to find out that that's real, that it's available, and that you are built to embrace it completely with your senses, all the senses. I mean, there are people who just are in ecstasy listening to an opera or the Philharmonic or something visual or a taste sensation if they're a gourmet. So you see, all of the senses are capable of experiencing way wide range of extremes relative to our sense of things. And love is the absolute crown of all of that on all the senses. And if you synthesize all the senses together into one single sense and then embrace love with that in a conscious way, you're going to have a hell of an experience.
Whoa.
So the human race has that
Sounds
in its
like
future. Well, it does, doesn't it? The human race, and look, we try to do that with sex. We try to do that with certain experiences that we have.
I think that's why a lot of people turn to drugs.
They do, and they also turn to, jumping out of airplanes with parachutes or wingsuits or whatever extreme sports are. They're to bring that potential in us into highest possible peak vibration. But if you just turn in the direction of love and pull it towards you, you have the potential for way greater than all of those things in a moment. But to know how to do that, to know how to bring that to us, has to be something we can imagine the idea of. But once humanity realizes it's possible, it's inevitable, and they can start acting towards that with their imagination and their visualization and their sense of adventure and joy, then the human race will start off at a much faster pace towards our inevitable solution to all of the misery of the human kind. Because all suffering in humanity, and this has been discussed for many centuries by the Buddhists and the Christians and all the others, all suffering is the result of the absence of love. There is no other cause to suffering. And all disease of any kind is the absence of that quality of life, which lies behind the word love. It lies as a living, energetic presence. And if you look around the space in you and actually saw it as a sort of golden energy or whatever, however you care to register it, it might not all look the same to everybody. But if you saw that energy and environment around you, then you would be curious about it. You'd say, what is that energy? How does that energy impact me? Is it tangible? Any way in which we can go towards the direct impact of that sensation in us that love will give rise to will bring us into harmony with it and bring us into a developmental understanding of it. And then we can start building a philosophy around it instead of around the absence of it, and naming everything other than that as the cause of everything in our life that we don't like or do like. You see, we've given causes.
In the labyrinth.
We are in the labyrinth. We really are. And we don't know the way out because it lies in another dimension from our normal sensory apparatus. But we live in that dimension. You're already a part of that dimension in which love rules. It's just a part of you that you're not having a daily full impact with, which is referred to as soul consciousness among spiritual teachers. Sorry, I just have to.
That's all right.
That's making my nose run. So
that's okay. It's a good time to wrap it up too.
Yeah.
I think we covered so many.
We started out with the idea of the sensation of love, and is that?
Yeah, but it all pulls to it because there's, it's like there's only so many ways to. I mean, there's probably endless ways to come at it, but some that you can actually put into practice. because you have to have somewhere to stand in all of it. And so, if you're looking towards love to pull it into your experience, well, commitment's going to help you. Visualization's going to help you. These are things that they're practical, which I like practicality.
The most practical thing about love is that, look, if I want to climb Everest, I'm going to have to dedicate a bunch of, I hear the little boogers. I'm going to have to dedicate a lot of time and energy and equipment to it and set my life aside to do it. Love is something you can do moment to moment, no matter what else you're doing. And what else? Because the more there is of it going on in your experience, the better your life is going to function. Yes. So you're right. It can be something you begin immediately and continue to do all the time you're doing every other thing, and keep strengthening that in your commitment until finally it breaks through and you and love have this intimate relationship explode in your consciousness, and then from then on you're with it. Mm-hmm. That's the goal, to me, of a human being that is worthy of following. Everything else is a temporary use of your time. But if during that temporary use of our time, whether we're out whale watching in Hawaii like you like to do, or whether we're out doing something that's commercial objective, be doing love at the same time. And then you're moving gradually towards that which transcends the human illusion and brings you into the wholeness of living life with love, with intelligence, with will, and start on the fullness of where that can go. The three of those together.
Just laugh.
Yeah, then we just laugh like
I feel like it.
My friend told me she picked up Maharishi at an airport one time in Australia because she was part of the team that was bringing him down to do a talk in Australia. She said, I had all these questions in my head. I was going to ask him about reality and stuff. And so we got in the back of the limo at the airport and headed for wherever they were going. And she said, all he did was giggle the whole way. He was just in this bliss state for some reason. And she couldn't get a straight answer out of him about anything. So maybe we will just giggle. I don't know.
I don't either, but it sounds like a good place to be.
Yeah, it kind of does. Anyway, things will work out better once we get that energy working in harmony with us. All right. Well, that's enough of this fooling around for tonight. Thanks for joining me, Taylor. I appreciate it. And
my pleasure.
Do this again.
I'll see you then.
All right. Hold on.